Thank you for tuning in to Hoops Hidden Gems podcast. I'm your host, David Jones. I want to thank everybody for checking us out again. We've been off for 2 weeks. I've been a little bit all over the place between checking out games, checking out some high school games, checking out college games. And thank you for, joining us as usual. Another great show in store for our first guest. I'm excited to have him on because a lot of people are not aware of Canadian college basketball. And I was able to get Coach Jeff Morrison, is the assistant coach from the University of New Brunswick, on the show today. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Happy to be here, man.
Man, I'm happy to have you on, man, because this is one of those situations where a lot of people, especially in the States, need to understand that there's a good brand of basketball in Canada. And, a lot of us didn't know about it. I mean, when we first started talking and you were just telling me about it, I was like, man, I was so interested. And that's why I was like, man, I'd love to bring you on the show because this is not only an educational for me, but for a number of people out here that this is an opportunity that you can use and it could possibly take you even further, and we're going to talk about some of that tonight. So we're just going to jump right into it, man. Tell me a little bit about the University of New Brunswick. Tell me about Canadian College. This is your stage, man, because I want to hear just like everybody else.
All right. Well, I try and break it down kind of the best I can for those of you that kind of aren't aware. So, like you said, University of New Brunswick, located in the province of New Brunswick, one of 13 in the country. It's located on the eastern part of Canada. So geographically on a map, it would be north of like Boston and Maine area, be driving distance from those locations. Mm-hmm. Basketball at the collegiate level in Canada is divided up into two different levels. One is called U Sport, which is the level that we're at. And then there's another one called CCAA. U Sport would be regarded as the higher level, kind of like Division I and Division II. However, great teams on both levels. In U Sport, there's 48 teams across the whole country, which is separated into 4 different conferences. The conference that UNB is in, it's called the Atlantic University Sport Conference, which has 8 teams. Basically, at the end of the season, each team qualifies for the national tournament, which has 8 teams, and they play in a national championship, usually sometime in March. For myself, this is my first year at this level. Myself and the current head coach at the school right now came from working in the pro level for a number of years in Canada. The league, the National Basketball League of Canada, and now took over the job in June of last year, and now currently recruiting for the 2022-2023 season. Came across the Hoops Hidden Gems podcast through Instagram, contacted with David Jones through there. And, here I am, just kind of familiar with your platform, was really interested in kind of basically the program that you're kind of running, and wanted to hear more. So I'm happy to be here.
And I definitely appreciate that, man, because it's just a situation where I thought it was so interesting. As you were, like you said, when you reached out to me, I was like, oh man. And it turned out, even though you were inquiring, I was the one asking the questions. And we'll start with you coming coming from the pro level. Before we even touch the Canadian college level, let's touch on you coming from the pro level and the pro level in Canada. Touch on that a little bit more.
So actually the full story is when I was 19, after I first played 1 year of college basketball, my cousin was hired as the head coach of a G League team, the Maine Red Claws.
Yes.
And at that time, he asked me to if I wanted to work for the team. It wasn't really going to be a paid position or anything. I ended up just going down there and working around with the team for 2 seasons. Came back to Canada where I was living to pursue my university degree. At that time, I joined on with the head coach I'm currently working with was the pro level at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I worked alongside him as an assistant coach. The NBL Canada is a league. It's on its 10th season this year. It's a very high level of basketball. The majority of the players are American. The only exception for the team is there has to be, I think, 4 Canadian players. So it's a lot of high level Division I players. So I coached at that level with one team for 2 years, and then one other team for a year. And had a lot of great experiences there. A lot of high level players from the States, and made a few connections, but nothing really for the college level. So
Okay.
you know.
Okay. And so you moved on from the pro level onto the college level where you got this position with the University of New Brunswick. And like I said, you were explaining that there's 48 teams in college, in the Canadian college, correct?
Yeah. 48 teams across the whole country. So 8 teams in our league.
And so there's 8 teams in your league. So explain to me, how does the tournament work? You said there's 8 teams. What about those other teams? Is it their own tournament, or how does that work?
Yep. So there's conference tournaments for each of the 4 different conferences. So our league would come together at like a large venue for a conference tournament at the end of regular season play, which we're approaching here in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you could say, one bid. The conference tournament champion would then move on to the national tournament.
Okay. And so so once you get from the conference tournament to the national tournament, how many teams are in the national tournament?
8 teams in that. So it's higher seed, lower seed. There's quarterfinal, semifinal, and final.
Okay.
And I mean, then the national champion is crowned. The team that's been dominating the country for a number of years is Carlton University. They're located in Ottawa.
Okay. And so with you taking over this position, and I'm assuming that did the head coach, is he new, or he just brought you in and this is just your first year?
Yeah. So he was hired on in the year of 2020 after when the COVID year hit and the pandemic shut all the seasons down. The remainder of that year, the NBL Canada had stopped. This coach that I'm currently with accepted a position as the head coach with the national team of Syria, the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers in the Middle East.
Yes.
And then he basically hired me on to be an assistant there. We did about a 5-month stint with that team. Came home through the winter, and then in June of last year, he was hired on at this level. So the head coach and myself, both very new to the level of college basketball as far as coaching. I'm from Canada, so I've watched it my whole life. So I feel like, I have a grasp on the level of talent and things like that. So,
okay. So one of the big questions I wanted to ask you, and we talked about this briefly a couple of weeks ago, and you said American players can come over there and go to college. Is that correct?
Yeah. So here's one of the main differences would be in Canada. When you start from your first year, you have 5 years of eligibility to play. You can stop and start at different times. So unlike America, there's no clock.
Yes.
American players could come from, basically you could play up to 3 years in America and then still come to Canada and play 2 more. You can transfer to Canada as long as you play your 4th and your 5th year here.
Gotcha.
So you can't have played 4 years and then do 2 more, so on. So you see it a lot. There's a lot of teams that get junior college transfers and things like that. So, and they've had a lot of success. So that's why I was kind of attracted to the platform.
So if you get a junior college transfer, and let's just say he does his freshman and sophomore year, that means he has 3 years. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And what would be the difference? So I'm big on education as well. So when we transfer from the America and go to Canada, and I know since this is your first year, this may be one of those questions we may have to revisit in the future. As far as those credits transferring, is there a difference like in American schools to Canadian schools? Will they end up losing a lot of credits? How does that work?
I think I can confidently say it would vary from school to school on what they would accept and what they wouldn't. I know for sure that in the past, some people have gotten some credits. I can't guarantee that all of them would transfer. It would just have, I know it would have something to do with, you know what I mean, the syllabus or of some kind, you know what I mean? So you would definitely, you would definitely get some. I wouldn't say you would get all.
Okay. Okay. One of the next big questions that I would like to ask as well, is it full scholarship? Is it partial scholarship? How does it work?
We could cover up to full scholarship, but would depend on the player for sure. Like I said, only 3 international spots on the team for American players to play. So, you know, we definitely could cover up to the full tuition if we felt like, you know,
if that person warranted that type of scholarship.
Of course.
Absolutely.
You know, of course.
Understood. And so I'm assuming you guys do have opportunities where you'll say, hey, we may give you a partial. Now, if they're coming from the States, there's no financial aid, or how does that work?
That would be something else that I would like to confirm in further detail. But I know my gut instinct is that there's a financial aid that what's the financial aid called in
FAFSA.
What's it? Sorry,
FAFSA. It's called FAFSA.
FAFSA. Yeah. So I think I have a friend that said that he was able to get that for one of his American players as well. So I think that's definitely an option for sure.
Okay. And I'm assuming, so if their grades are good, would they be eligible for academic money then?
100%. 100%.
Do you know what the grade point average would be to get academic money?
I would have to confirm that as well. I should know it now, but you know, it's you know, it would be on par with most of the universities in the United States, I'm sure.
Yeah, so basically
around the same level.
3.5, 3.8 to get that.
Yeah, it was the number I was going to say, but I didn't want to sound too off, man.
Okay.
But yeah, that was that. Yeah.
And so, man, so to ask this next question, that leads into a question as well. So, and I want to ask this because I want parents to understand how important this is. So if, you know, we have this relationship and I say, hey, coach, how you doing? I got a player. Let's just say he's a 6'5", 6'4", whatever the case may be. He has a 3.8 GPA and he's eligible to get that academic money that we're talking about. And, you know, that may cover half of, you know, the scholarship, and which is a, you know, an ease on your budget. Would you agree that he's a lot more attractive when you have those type of players?
100%.
And I can't preach that enough. And I don't care if it's Canada or if it's here. I'm just glad you backed that up. And it's the same thing in Canada as well, that if I can say, hey, this kid is a high academic kid, and it's not going to cost your budget, all of your budget, where you can possibly get him 50% or 75% academic money, you're going to look at him and say, hey, let's take a look at this kid.
For sure. And I think actually in Canada, at least for some of the Canadian students that are eligible for academic money, but are also worthy of a full basketball scholarship, they can basically be given the full tuition scholarship, and then the academic money just goes into their account.
Wow. Are you serious?
Which some use for, you know what I mean, rent and such things.
Yes.
You know
because remember we talked about earlier, like, you know, sometimes you guys have scholarships that cover 90%. And if they're covering 90%, that academic money could cover their housing, correct?
For sure.
Man, that's huge right there. That's very attractive. I know some of the kids, I know it gets a little chilly up there, but they'll get used to that.
It's not chilly in the gym, man. Basketball's the same everywhere. Everywhere you go, man. I've been around the world, man.
I can definitely agree that temperature is the same to have them shorts on in the gym.
Man,
absolutely.
It's gonna be the same, man. Basketball still bounces.
Absolutely. So, man, one of the big questions. So we talk about the Canadian leagues, and I wanted to touch on that just a little bit further because, man, before the show started, you gave some good tidbits, like how some of those kids can go play in the Canadian Pro League and still come back and have their eligibility.
Yeah, so the Canadian CEBL, Canadian Elite Basketball League, that runs through the months, I believe, of June to August, I think at the earliest, basically the summer months and the off season from both the traditional professional season and university season through the winter.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's a partnership with U Sports, and they basically allot 2 roster spots on each team to U Sports players. They do a draft every year, and basically the player could go play 3 months of professional basketball and then still go back and maintain amateur status and play at the college level. So, I mean, and as I told you earlier, this is granted this is all based on the fact that this player is good enough, but
absolutely, yes.
Definitely an option for someone if someone feels, you know what I mean?
Man, that's a great option right there. That's something the NCAA needs to look into right there. That's a sweet deal right there. You're getting 5 years. So, if somebody came over there as a junior and said, hey, I'm interested in coming. Let's just say the guy was pretty decent to, as a junior. I could see this in the future where somebody that was pretty good and they had the option to come over there and you sold it to them like, hey, you may have a chance to play in the summer or during the off season for this team. And if you come play with the University of New Brunswick, you go play with them in the summer, come back and play with us, and you're going to have 2 years instead of 1 year left. That's
and I mean the NBL Canada teams and both the CBL teams, players have gone from U Sports to those teams. They're watching this basketball as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's eyes on this level from a lot of different places. So, I mean, definitely for sure.
So, do those guys from the NBL Canada, do they sometimes leave the NBL Canada and go to other professional leagues as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so they could go
vice versa. They could go G League. They could go, you know what I mean, Euro League, whatever, and so on. Like a player might get cut from a team in Europe and then play for the NBL Canada and so on.
Nice, man. That's
it's high level basketball.
Research really that a lot, man. I mean, man. And especially since you have that knowledge of it, please believe I will be picking your brain on that one in the future outside of it.
No problem. Yeah.
So one of the other big things, so let's get into University of New Brunswick as well. So what type of majors do they offer? And, I think that's going to be important as well. I mean, of course, it's going to be important for parents and prospects to do their own research on New Brunswick's page, but just real quick, tell me about the school and what they offer and just get us familiar with it.
So again, I really would like those that are interested to reference the University of New Brunswick website. Has a great layout of everything and very helpful academic staff that answer any questions as that you might have. But off the top, I can tell you it has offers 4-year undergraduate and graduate degrees. A few of the big programs that I know they have here is kinesiology, engineering, business, science, arts. They have a graduate program. They have a law school, graduate program in sports management, a graduate program in business and so on. So it's definitely highly regarded in the maritime provinces as a very good academic institution for sure. Facilities wise, I would say among some of the best in the conference and in the area. And again, all of this is very well laid out on the University of New Brunswick website. So.
And so let me ask this, and give me a typical day for your student athletes. So you practice in the morning. How does it work for you guys there?
So most of the guys on our team right now, on an average day, or it might be, you get up, we'd have a workout, usually with myself or one of the other assistant coaches around, in the mornings or in the afternoon around your class schedule. And we usually practice anytime between 3:30 and 8:30 at night. Practice every day, usually play Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday. So not a lot of midweek games. Through the week, it's pretty routine, a lot of focus on, practice, health, academics, very healthy balance, very friendly, you know what I mean? Like I said, academic staff and athletic staff. It's really a pretty good setup. I think, the guys are taking pretty good care of out here. And players seem to enjoy it. Could be a good situation for someone.
Okay. For sure. So let me ask this as well. So practice-wise, is there a limit for practice? You can only practice maybe 20 hours a week, or how does that work there?
As far as I know, there's no limit. We usually practice for 2 hours a day, and then outside you might have a team lift or workout on court player development. So
I think something music to my ears. And that was going to be one of my questions. And I'm sorry for cutting you off. I am huge on player development. Huge on it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, like I said, we come from the professional level. Myself, I've spent 2 years in the G League. I got my start in basketball around player development, and you know what I mean, and basically, video coordinating and stuff like that. So, obviously, something that we value very highly. Like I said, you have 5 years to play at this level. If there's only 3 international spots, we're definitely looking for someone that can make an impact right away. But player development, there's no limit on it. You know what I mean? You can continue to get better, and if we're trying to help you get a career past university, the player development, you know what I mean? It's every day. It's every day in some way, on the court, in the video room. You know what I mean? Through watching, through teaching, through repetitions. Definitely one of the key pillars of the basketball program at this time.
So let me ask you this. So this is another big question for me as well. The one thing I think about as well when I'm thinking about this whole situation, and it sounds like a really good situation, off-season, in your off-season workouts, do you require your guys to stay on campus or are you big, or do you prefer that? Let me say that, not required. Do you prefer it, Brad?
Well, I mean, like I said, this would be our first off season, technically our full off season approaching. If we had an American player to come up here to go to school, they would not be required to stay in Canada in this through the summer. No, not at all. If they felt like they wanted to go home and work or do whatever, yeah, no, absolutely. But that being said, we would definitely. I mean, we're here year round. You know what I mean? Canada's a pretty beautiful place in the summer. I think the plan is to try and help some of the guys that may choose to stay here get work and hours and player development through the summer. You know what I mean, nonstop. So both options would be available for whatever he may choose.
Okay. And just touching on what you're saying real quick, um, they can work, like say they wanted to stay, they could work during the off season. I don't know how you guys have it set up.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, still kind of myself new to the details surrounding the student visa and the working visa and so on.
Hmm.
But the I believe strongly feel strongly that they would be able to work during the summer and through their paperwork from the university for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay. And last but not least, there's two questions I really got for you before I let you go. If they graduate, let's say they come up there, they play those last 2 years with you guys, and say they're interested in getting into coaching, do you have it set up to where, and I know this may be, you might not be able to answer this one, but let's say I graduated and I wanted to go into coaching and I wanted to be a grad assistant. Do you have those type of opportunities there?
We currently don't.
Okay.
I would basically the budgets for Canadian at this level at those positions is definitely lacking.
Okay.
I would say there is other schools in the country that may have a different situation. So I'd say
Okay.
for our schools, probably not right now.
Okay.
For other schools, it may be an option for sure.
Okay. And one of the questions, and I definitely wanted to ask this as well. What style of basketball does New Brunswick play?
Um, in my opinion, a fun style of basketball to play in.
Okay.
Definitely a more modern style, pace, space, and paint. You know what I mean? A lot of free flow, a lot of middle ball screens. You know what I mean? A lot of more. I would say more of the modern, like I said, modernized style of play. I feel like we may be kind of incorporating the pro style to the college game at this point.
Mm-hmm.
In watching some of the other teams, I would say we're a team that's going to, stay in a stagnant motion offense until, beat it to death. You know what I mean? I feel like we're a place where, if a guy has it going, he'll get the ball back. We'll find ways to get him the ball,
Mm-hmm.
emphasis on, paint touches and ball reversals. You know what I mean? Rhythm threes, play fast and transition when it's there. Defensively, play with confidence, contain the basketball. Get up in your man. I think, like I said, as on the recruiting path right now, as I'm describing, all I can say is it seems to me like a very fun style of play, and style of play that a player that has a lot of talent can succeed in.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. And is what's the shot clock there in the Canadian college game?
24 seconds.
Okay, so it's 24 seconds. Okay.
24 seconds since I was in middle school.
Okay.
I don't know what America's got to change that, man. I love
Yeah,
basketball, man, but they got to incorporate
I
the shot
know,
clock.
man. That's
I'm
a
standing by
whole
that one.
other story right
I'm
there.
standing by
Goodness.
that one, man.
So
Don't have to
okay,
be 24. Yeah.
and so let me ask that out of interest as well. Um, are zones allowed? Do you prefer man or how does it go there?
Yeah. So notable differences other than the 24-second shot clock would then mean 8-second backcourt. Zones are allowed. Other than that, the only other rule that I know that's different: no live ball timeouts, no subbing in between free throws,
Okay.
just little things like that. Nothing
Okay.
of real impact. You know what I mean? Other than maybe the shot clock.
Okay. And so
12-minute quarters. 4 12-minute quarters.
412. Okay, so
Yeah, 4 12-minute quarters.
that's almost pro style right there.
Oh shit! 4 10-minute quarters now. It's 4
Okay,
12-minute pro.
okay.
Yeah, 4 10-minute quarters now. Yeah,
Okay.
still new, man. Still new. Yeah.
So from a defensive principle, and man, I ask you just like I ask any other coach, how important is it to know the shell drill from a defensive principle, even in the Canadian side?
It's everything, man. It's everything. It's the backbone. You know what I mean? It's the
Yes,
fundamental. It's the fundamental of your defense. It's
absolutely.
yeah,
And that's exactly
you
what I
want to
want
talk
to
about
hear.
something that doesn't change from wherever you go, man.
Yes.
That's one of them right there.
And I asked that question because, I harp on that 100%. And, I want parents to hear that, like, the answer doesn't change. Like, you're in Canada and the principle is still the same. I asked women coaches, I asked men coaches, and I think it's great that you gave that answer because it's universal. As you said, it's universal, plain and simple.
Yeah.
Are you big on ball screens in your offense? Because that's more the European, FIBA set where they're big on pick and pops and pick and rolls. Are you guys big on that?
Yeah, I would say so for sure. Very ball screen dominant, pick and pop. We have a couple of big men that can shoot the three. Believe in proper spacing, playing with a lot of pace. A good pace, a lot of space.
Okay.
Definitely, big believer in ball screen offense for sure. And then therefore teaching reads and different options out of that for sure.
Definitely. Hey, man, I definitely appreciate you coming on. For people that are interested in learning more about Canadian college basketball and even Canadian pro basketball, since you're knowledgeable on both sides, how can they contact you?
Yeah, so you can contact me. My email address, it's just jeff.morrison@unb.ca. So as my name appears here on the screen, jeff.morrison@unb.ca.
Okay.
You can contact me on there, and then we can carry the conversation on. I'm open to chatting with anybody. I can provide answers to the best of my ability.
Okay.
As I did, I don't have the answers for everything, but I can try and point you to someone that does. I'll say that right now. So I'm very open to chatting. And I also just want to say thank you very much for having me on. This was a lot of fun. I look forward to talking with you more.
Oh, definitely.
And hoping to connect a little bit more about your platform.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to following again. So I think you're doing a really good thing here for these people. And I think you know what I mean. It could be a very good thing for our school as well. So
I appreciate
it,
that, man. Yeah, I appreciate you. I mean, when you first reached out to me, man, I was excited. The first thing I said, I was like, "Oh, is this really real?" And as we started talking, and I got so excited because I was like, "Oh man, this is really broadening past the state." So I was really excited, and man, honestly, I'm just going to tell you now, I'm going to invite you back on the show because, man, I know there's going to be a bunch of people asking more questions about this because a lot of people didn't know. And, like I said, once I connected with you, I was ecstatic because, there's just so much I want to learn about it. And to be honest, I'll probably come up there just to check it out and I want to learn some more. You know what I mean?
I'm always welcome, man. I appreciate it. For
definitely.
real.
Coach Morrison, definitely. We'll be talking some more after the show, man, but I appreciate it, man. And you have a good evening, okay?
You as well, man. Thank you.
All right. That definitely, Coach Morrison, man. I definitely impressed with what they do up there in Canada. Even some of the small differences, they're still the same. And as he said, a lot of times basketball is universal. So a lot of the same principles are the same in Canada as well. My next guest, great friend, just met him not too long ago, a couple weeks ago. Met him through, we were at a showcase at a post-grad, and, we just got to talking, and, one thing led to another, and here he is getting ready to come on to the show. Now a good friend of the show now because one of the producers, they're both from the same hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. I'm going to bring on Coach Josh Pittman from Berry College here in Georgia. How you doing today, Coach?
Doing great, Coach. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing pretty good, man. As you can see, we ran a little bit over talking to the coach from Canada. Man, that was totally new for me, man, and it was a learning experience. And, I'm always for learning something new, Canadian college, Canadian professional level. And, I always wanted to bring you on because, number one, I'm big on D3 because so many people underestimate D3 basketball. And, like I said, I already saw you play earlier this year when you guys scrimmaged Emory. And, I liked what I saw. And it was just by coincidence when we bumped into each other at the TSF showcase, I just made it a point to reach out to you and get to know you a little better. So, man, tell us about Berry College, man, up in Rome, Georgia.
We're having a good year so far. So we're 21-2. Just played the the quarterfinals in the conference. So beat Millsaps. We're the number 1 seed, won the regular season. It's a special group of young men we've got. I came from the rival school up the road at Center, so you kind of always wonder how they're going to adjust to you. They've been phenomenal. I mean, we've got really good kids, and they're great basketball players, but they're better human beings. Do whatever you ask. I mean, I'm lucky. I tell people I'm probably one of the luckiest coaches in America. I wake up every day looking forward to just hanging around them. They're great people.
Gotcha.
So obviously we've got the semifinals against Birmingham Southern this Saturday.
Wow. And is it at Birmingham Southern or is it at Rome?
It's at Berry.
Okay.
Yeah, the top seed host, which is nice. So we don't have to go anywhere. And then the other semifinals is Hendricks Oglethorpe, which is another good program down in Atlanta. So it's been a good year so far. We got great kids.
Okay. Okay. So let me ask this as well. So, Berry is a high academic school. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so for some of our listeners that are watching, what type of GPA do you need? We'll start not just with your average student, but as an athlete, what do you need to be accepted into Berry?
I would say the highest, the better. The higher, the better. So you got a 4.0, you're good. Obviously, the lowest it can really be is about a 3.2, 3.3. And if you're anything lower than that, it's tough. It's a good academic school, really good academic school. So they do a great job of helping us out and all that stuff. Obviously, with D3, you don't get athletic scholarships. You can get $40,000 in academic money, but it's not a basketball scholarship to say, but it's still a $40,000 scholarship. So $40,000 scholarship.
Absolutely. What's the tuition there? Let me ask that.
It's about everything included is $53,000, about 53.
Man, okay. So I'm so glad you just brought that up. So it's 53 out the door. So, a lot of people that before they would even give you a chance to talk would turn their head because they'd be like, oh my gosh, $53,000. But as soon as you turn around and say, well, if you have, and I'm assuming it probably has to be a 3.5 or better to get that $40,000 scholarship, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on financial aid. Your staffs. I'll be honest, there's probably 20 different things that go into that. I don't even know all the things. I've only been in D3 for about 4 years.
Okay.
So obviously, when people hear 53 and they freak out sometimes.
Yes.
It's like we tell people, whoa, just relax a little bit. If you've got a 4.0, you're in National Honor Society, you got great, pretty much a great resume. You're in so many different clubs. You're active in the community. That's the type of student we want. So you got to be a good person first. We recruit a good person that just happens to be a good basketball player, not a good basketball player who happens to be a good person. So
yeah, absolutely. So, and I just want to go back to this real quick because I'm gonna take your job real quick. If you get a $40,000 scholarship, you're full Pell at $7,700, and I'm assuming you guys have work study if they qualify through their FAFSA, correct?
Yeah, correct.
It's almost free.
Yeah, it pretty much is.
It's almost free.
Yeah, and a lot of our guys work. I think, and I'm still learning about Berry, it being a first year, but I think about 95% of our students work, which is great. And most of the time, it's in the field that they're going into. Mm-hmm. So when they get out of Berry, if you're wanting to do physical therapy or something like that, we have some students who work with our athletic trainers. So you've got 2 years experience. So it kind of gives you a head start on other students. So it's a big advantage. I mean, so we've got a great, animal science program, as to where, you're working in that field. So, pretty much it's an advantage going to Berry because when you get out, you've already got 3 years experience, where if you go to maybe, I don't know, I'll just use Kennesaw State or a big university like that, maybe you don't have that experience. And so it's a big deal, and it gives you guys, it gives our students a really big head start.
And I just want to touch that even more because as my brain was spinning as you're talking, so you get that academic scholarship, you get full Pell, and here in Georgia, if you're over a 3.0 or something like that, you get the Hope Scholarship money. And a lot of the guys that you're taking are high academic, and if they're 3.7, they qualify for Zell Miller anyways.
Yeah. I mean, and our team GPA this past semester was, I think, like a 3.4. So our guys are high academic kids. I mean, I tell people they're great basketball players, but they're great students. I mean, they're just complete kids in general. So a lot of times, like you said, when you hear 53, you just, once you break it down and we explain it to them and the value of the education you get, and I think some people think 53 and they freak out, obviously. But you're getting like a Porsche, a Porsche education.
Yeah.
You're not getting you're getting a high-end education.
Absolutely.
You're not getting, I have a Honda. You're not getting a Honda education. You're not getting a state school education. You're getting, the elite of the elite. So, sure, it's tough when you hear that number, but it's well worth it.
Well, people don't understand, even the conference you're in, the majority of those schools are high academic.
Yeah, they are. And that's kind of, you got Sewanee, up 2 hours north of here. You got Center, which is a pretty good academic school in Kentucky.
Birmingham Southern.
Rose in Memphis. It's a pretty good academic league, so which makes it even because it's kind of an equal playing field where everybody's trying to get, you don't have one kid that they can get in with a 2.0. So, it's a pretty fair recruiting field too.
Okay. So let me ask this as well. And I asked, just like I asked most of the other coaches, a typical day during the season, what's it like?
So this semester it's been a little different because we can practice on Tuesday and Thursday at 10:30 to 12. It just worked out that way for our class schedules. But most of the time we'll practice about 3:30 to about 5:30. And majority of them are going to class throughout that day. And because it's a high academic school, we don't want to put too much. Obviously, their academics are the most important. So they'll do that, and then they'll come in. We'll watch film. They'll do rehab every now and then, post preseason, and during the season, we'll lift at 7 a.m. a couple times a week, and stuff like that. Obviously, as the season progresses, we're going about an hour right now. That's about it. So we're just trying to keep them fresh and their body, take care of their bodies is the most important thing.
Okay.
But most of the time, they're out of the gym by 5:30 at the latest.
And do they go to study hall from there, or how does it work?
Yeah, they're required to do 6 hours of study hall, and we chart that, and we can tell. So if you got 5 hours and 57 minutes, that's not good enough. That's not 6 hours. So we're pretty tough on them because academics is why you're here. A lot of the time that ball is going to stop bouncing. Then what do you do? And so the habits they form now are the habits that they're going to take for the rest of their lives. So, showing up on time, taking care of your work in the classroom, sitting in the first 3 rows of the classroom, paying attention. Yes, sir. No, sir. Things like that. Just being great people first and foremost. That's the thing we're most concerned about.
Okay. And so during the season, let's just say on game day, how does game day work in regards to, let's just say it's a home game and it's not an away game. So on game day, do you have like your pre-meal, then you may have a walkthrough or something like that? What do you do to prepare on game day?
Yeah, we're usually our league's a little different because we play Friday, Sunday, which makes it, it's a little challenging.
Yeah.
And so a lot of teams, our travel's tough because we're kind of spread out a little bit. But if we have a home game, we'll do a shoot around, a quick shoot around maybe at 3 for an hour. Then they'll go eat pregame meal. We'll get some food catered in from an Italian place or something. Get them a good meal. They'll eat at 4, and then we'll say, hey, be back at 6:30 or 6. We like to cheer on the girls' team as well, and they usually play at 6, and then we'll play at 8, and then we play at 8, and then after the game, they're free to go. Sundays are a little different just because we usually play at 4 or 3 or 4. I should know this by now. But we play then. And so we'll do a quick walkthrough at like 10:30 for 30 minutes. We'll watch a little bit of film. And then we'll obviously get them out by 11. They can eat and things like that. So a lot of them, some of the guys go to church early in the morning, which obviously we encourage. So they go to church and then they come to shoot around. And if they're a few minutes late due to church, that's, we got priorities here. That's more important than shoot around, obviously.
Okay. And what type of offense do you play at Berry?
We're big this year. So our
Yes,
team,
you are.
we've got 6'8", 6'8", 6'11". Our 4-man 6'6", 6'4". So we're really big. But our team's unique because we've got 8 guys who can score 20. I mean, and it's people ask me all the time, they're like, who's going to step up? I'm like, I don't know, but I can tell one of the 8's going to do it. And it's a good thing to have. But obviously we try to throw it inside, which I feel like we've got the best post player in Austin Brooks. And so he's great. And we've got a great point guard, Michael Johnson. Then we've got 4 or 5 shooters around the perimeter, Owen Honroth, Blake Campbell, Chase Ellis, Mike Johnson, Robbie Rushion, and we're pretty young actually. And so, but we throw it in there and they eventually have to double because we're so big. And then you get open shots. And so,
you guys do a great job of spacing too. That was the thing. And that's what gets those shooters wide open, because with that space, they can't collapse as much when you guys are so spaced out. And like you have multiple shooters, so they're all around the perimeter, so they can go and probably swipe, but a lot of times that's leaving that big on the island to watch the big fella.
Yeah, and Austin's really good. I mean, he's a horse. I mean, he's big down there, and so most teams have to double him somehow, and so it leaves open. Somebody's going to hit a shot. Somebody's getting a wide open shot, and they just got to knock it down. Which most of the time, one of the other 6 guys we have shooters out there is usually going to do it.
Absolutely. Now, defense. What type of defense do you guys prefer?
It's mainly a half court man. Because we're big, we're not a full court press type of team. I worked for Patino for a few years, so it's a little different. It's more just keep the ball in front, be extremely physical. I like to tell people we're like a Big Ten team. I mean, we're physical. Yeah. We throw different bodies at you. You eventually get tired and worn down, but it's keep everything in front. And so it's not really in your face, but we're going to make you beat us with tough twos. We can run you off the 3-point line because we got 6'10", 6'8", 6'8" down there waiting for you. So there's a lot of different things we can do.
And let me ask this, like preseason schedule, do you play non-D3 teams? Do you play like some D2s or D1s? How do you guys do it?
Yeah, this year we didn't. The coach before, Coach Cole, Mitch Cole, he got the job at Samford. He's the associate head coach there, and so the assistant, Trevor Leidig, got promoted. And then I actually didn't get down until October 4th. So I was still trying to figure it all out. And so scheduling was a little different this year, but we didn't play anybody this year. Obviously, we'd like to play some guys. I think it would be a good experience for our guys to maybe play against some D1 guys or D2 guys. But this year we didn't. Hopefully we can get one of those teams next year. So any D1s out there who want to play, feel free to call me.
I got you. So let me ask you this as well. And since you guys play half court man, and I'm sure you probably heard this previous to the last person, that means it is pertinent that they know the shell drill.
You know it. Everybody needs to know the shell drill. There's different ways to teach it. That's the beauty of it.
That's a great point you brought up. It doesn't always have to be the traditional way that's taught. Like you said, there are a number of ways to teach it because, a lot of times guys will get caught up, especially in an offense that is a Euro style offense with pick and pop and, a lot of different versions of it. Or in the Princeton offense, you got to be on your toes in that Princeton offense or you will get beat. And that's just one of those things, I always tell people the importance of it because you'll attest to this. A lot of these guys that played zone in high school and didn't play that much man, they get to your program, they think, oh, it's D3. I'm gonna be able to be an elite athlete and get away. As well as I know that's garbage. And not only that, they're going to be lost. And man, when we were talking at the TSF event, a lot of people don't understand you're hurting some people's feelings when you're telling them you're not good enough for D3.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of people, I get a lot of emails and they're like, he's a D3 kid. And I'm like, what's that mean? I don't like, what is a D3 kid? I don't know what that means sometimes. And
yeah.
I'm like, our kids are not D3 kids. I mean, I look at
and I can attest to that.
Yeah, I'm like, these guys are talented. Like, they're really good. And, but there's a learning curve for all freshmen. And it's tough for freshmen because they go from, being the stud on their team to sitting, and our guys have done a great job of just buying in. That's saying, you know what, we're a top 25 program, and it's tough because, they're like, I want to play, but they've done a great job. And we've even got some sophomores who feel like they should be playing more, which I get, they want to play, but at the same time, they bought in. And they've all bought in. A perfect example, we had a senior the other day. We played Oglethorpe for a conference title, and he came up to me and he's like, Coach, don't start me on senior night. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, I don't want to start the best players. He's like, I'm trying to win a conference title. That's all I care about. And, and that's the culture of our team. Guys just, we'll tell them to go in and they're like, no. They're playing good right now. They just hit 2 threes. Send me back. Like, I'm good, and it's a fun group. I mean, it's an awesome group. And when you do that and everybody's buying in, man, I mean, it's fun. It's makes my job as a coach a lot easier. I just sit back and I'm their biggest fan. I tell you that all the time.
Man, and let me just speak a little further. And, I told you I was at the Barry Emory scrimmage, 2 nationally ranked D3 schools. I brought my son with me because I said, hey, man, I want you to see what it is for D3 basketball. And, our AAU organization does that as well. We go to D3 games, we go to D2 games, we go to NAIA games. I mean, yeah, we'll go to D2 and D1 games, but we go to all levels. And a lot of, what happens a lot of times, just like my son said, hey, they're not bad. And I was like, yeah, that's why I brought you. He was like, both teams are good. And then, of course, he walked into Emory's, he walked in their facilities and was like, oh, this is nice. I said, yeah. I said, a lot of these facilities, a lot of times are better than some D1 facilities. First thing out of his mouth, I could go here. I said, that's why I brought you. That's exactly why I brought you, so you can see the type of basketball that's out there, man. And, for people to see. And I didn't even get to meet you that part, that day. I was just impressed when I saw the team. I was like, this team is pretty good. And like you said, I was like, this team is huge too, And to be quite honest, there's no doubt in my mind you probably could beat some NAIA and D2 schools. Don't y'all chop my head off for saying that, but it's only the truth. They're not a bad school at all. And you got, like I said, with the shooters you have, the multiple shooters that you have, yeah, I could see it. I could definitely see that. And, that's not, and I'm just going to say, that's not a knock to any D2 or NAIA program that you guys could beat them because, like I said, you guys are ranked. And if you're going to be honest, a lot of times, a lot of ranked schools can beat some of those other schools. Like, people don't like to admit it. Hence, that's why sometimes they won't play you guys, but that's what it is.
Yeah. And Emory's a great program. I mean, it's a top tier program every year that the coach does a great job. And a lot of people think D3 and all that. And a lot of kids get so consumed in the level, and I lived in Louisville. And so we had Bellarmine, who was a Division II program, and they
very good one.
Yeah. They transitioned to the A-Sun and everybody was like, oh, they're done now. And now I think they're like 11-2. I was talking to, Coach Davenport's son, and I was like, and then you've got Georgetown College up there, and
AI power.
And so it's one of those where it's like, guys, it doesn't matter the level. When I was at Louisville, we almost lost to Georgetown. I mean, it was like a 6-point game at the under 4 media timeout. And it's just not about levels anymore. Everybody can play. So, whether it's, it's D3, I'm writing them off. I wouldn't write anybody off this day and age. It's all about fit. If you can find a right fit for where you want to play, it's a good program and you can get a good education, by all means. I mean, I think some people, maybe we get so consumed about, I want to go D1 or I want to play high D2. And I ask kids, do you want to do it for an Instagram post or tweet? Do you want it for likes? Or I'm like, you need to go where you're wanted, because, a lot of times at D1 and D2, there's so much turnover with coaches.
Yeah.
The majority of the time you're going to play for 2 to 3, maybe 3 head coaches. If something bad happens, unfortunately, that's just the nature of coaching. And so Coach Patino used to always tell us, go where you're wanted. And whether it's in a coaching profession or whether it's in recruiting wise, go where you're wanted. And I think it stuck out to me when he said that, because Billy Donovan took the Magic job. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
He was wanted at Florida. They loved him at Florida. And then he bounced and went back to Florida. And I'm sure he probably caught a lot of grief, but I'm like, that his quote just rang in my head. And I was like, he probably went where he was wanted, And so just don't write off levels. There's some kids where I talk to them and they're like, nah, I don't want that. I'll hit you up later.
And they big timing.
Yeah. And I'm like, I get it. I was there, like not everybody wakes up. Everybody's got hoop dreams,
Yeah.
Trust me, Louisville's got an opening right now. Like, they're not calling me to be their head coach. It's one of those things, man, where you just got to go where you're wanted. You got to be where your feet are. You got to make the most of the opportunity. I tell people all the time, we've got 4 gyms on campus. We got an athletes only weight room. We got a general weight room. We play in a facility that I would put up against a lot of D1s. It's just an unbelievable facility. And once we get them there and they see it, they're like, whoa, this isn't what I thought. And I'm like, yeah, I know it's not what you thought. It's not what I thought when I thought of D3 as well. So I got into it. But it is what it is. But, I would say don't write off anybody.
Absolutely. Let me ask this last question. And I always ask it from an important standpoint. My college career is over from Barry. I enjoyed my 4 or 5 years being there. I want to get into coaching. Can I be a GA there?
We do. We just now, a lot of D3s don't have master's programs. Some don't. So when I was at, you don't have a master's program. So you can't really get a GA. We have a volunteer assistant, Dominic Weems, who wants to get into coaching. And so we're trying to get him, we're putting him in position to get another job from this. I tell our kids all the time, take advantage of who I've met or who I know. Ask me, hey, do you know somebody in the finance world who can help me out? I tell people, my old college roommate, he's super well connected in Nashville and owns a bunch of restaurants, and he's a great businessman. Like, I can put you in contact with him. He's a great entrepreneur. So yeah, you can get into coaching. And we have positions, and coaching is such a competitive, it's a competitive business now. I tell people if they told me, hey, we don't want you anymore, Barry told me we don't want you anymore, I bet there'd be 300 people chomping at the bit for my job. Yeah. It's a great job. And we've got a great president. We got a great school. We got a great athletic director. We got a great administration. But it's super competitive to get into coaching now. But yes, to answer your question, it is yes, they can do that.
Okay. Hey man, I wanted to bring you on, man, because I'm big on all levels. I support D3, I support D2, I support NAI. I mean, of course, I support D1. I support JUCO D1, JUCO D2, JUCO D3. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, because, for the people that don't know about Barry, I wanted to bring you on. So how can they contact you if they want to get in touch with you on Twitter, or how can they contact you?
Yeah, my Twitter, and I just looked it up because I heard you ask the last guy, and I want to make sure I got it right. It's Josh @JoshPittman_. And I'm going to make sure, I know I should know that off the top of my head. Okay. I'm going to look it up just to make sure. Okay. And that is correct. And then obviously my email is jpittman@barry.edu. Okay. So obviously we're still looking for kids all the time. I don't care where you're located. If you're a good person first and foremost, and you fit the mission of our school and kind of our program and what we're about, then obviously we'd love for you to take a look at us.
How many kids are you looking for next year?
We lose 3 seniors.
So you're looking for 3.
We kind of be a little selective, probably 4 or 5. You just never know. Okay. But we've got a young group coming back. So I think we have maybe 3 or 4 sophomores. We got 5 or 6 freshmen, 4 or 5 juniors. So we're pretty young. I know that's, I think we can be really good next year. We lose a really good point guard and a really good post player and a great role player for us. But I think we'll bring in a few and we'll see what happens. But I like where we're going.
Okay. Man, and I know I said I'm going to get up there, man. I definitely want to come check out because I want to see those facilities. You know, like I said, I saw you when you guys scrimmaged Emory, but I want to get up there and check you guys out and see, you know, I want to see the campus. I want to see what it's all about at Berry as well, man.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful campus. A lot of people don't realize it's the largest campus in the United States. It's 27,000 acres. And so a lot of people are like, Berry College, 27,000 acres. I'm like, yeah, it's 27,000 acres. So, you know, we got deer running everywhere. We got, you know, bald eagles flying around campus. You name it, we got it out there. So, you know, I guess with one of the top animal science programs in the country, you got to have animals.
Yeah,
and so we got those. So it's a beautiful campus. One of the prettiest, I would say the prettiest campus I've ever worked at. I mean, it's beautiful, great people too, which make it even nicer for me. So it's a great spot.
Gotcha. Hey, Coach Pittman, man, I appreciate it. And I know I'm going to see you out. No, ain't no telling where, you know, between seeing you at showcases, seeing you at recruiting events. Man, I appreciate you coming on. And, man, I want to keep spreading that word about Berry College and D3 basketball. So, you know, I'll definitely have you on the show again, man.
Man, I appreciate it. Like I said, you're welcome anytime. The door's always open at Berry for you.
I appreciate it, man. We'll be talking real soon, man. You have a good one tonight, okay?
All right. Appreciate you, Coach.
All right, no problem. Coach Pittman from Berry University. I'm going to tell you guys 100 times over, just like I tell a lot of these kids in our AAU program, man, do not write off D3 basketball because not only are you writing off a good brand of basketball, you're writing off a good brand of education as well because when that ball stops bouncing, you're going to need something to fall back on. My next guest, man, people don't understand I'm a big component of basketball, all levels, but I'm also a component of women's basketball, whether it's high school, post-grad, JUCO, 2-year, 4-year, WNBA. I'm a big component of women's basketball as well. And the next person I wanted to bring on, he's a high school coach here in Georgia. And, man, he has his team rolling over there at Grayson. A lot of people know Grayson for the boys' side, and Coach Pierce does a great job. But, man, I wanted people to know about Grayson's women's team because they have a young and very good team. So our next guest is Coach. Can you hear me?
Yes, I got you.
How you doing today?
Man, doing great. Really excited to be here. Really excited to talk to you. Especially, just like you said, really pushing and promoting girls basketball, especially girls basketball and recruiting in girls basketball.
Yes.
It's a huge passion of mine. If you follow me on my social media, on my Instagram, on my Twitter, you see that I do a lot to push my kids and push our program, and I really kind of put them out there. And so I think that's something that is definitely needed. So I'm excited to be here to discuss that and kind of push that envelope and continue to grow the game, particularly on the girls' side.
Absolutely. So, for people that don't know, I have a girls' side and I have a women's side. And to be quite honest, the girls' side of Hoops Hidden Gems is just as big as the men's side, if not bigger. And the reason why you caught my attention is because I saw how you were pushing your girls. And I was like, man, I got to meet this guy because he's doing it the right way. And I like what you're doing in ways of, it almost looked like you were a college coach because you knew exactly how to promote your girls. And I was like, now this is what I'm talking about. So when I reached out to you, I was like, man, I like what you're doing there. And on top of that, you got some really good girls because, what's Tatum's last name?
Tatum Brown. Yeah. 2025.
Man, she's going to be really good.
Yeah.
She's going to be really good. But it wasn't just Tatum, but just watching how you move to push your seniors and juniors as well. Like Tatum is like a no-brainer. Like when I saw her, I was like, okay, it doesn't take much to see she's going to be very good. But when I start paying attention to your other girl, I was like, man, she's good too. She's good too. And the way you were breaking it down is what I liked. Is I was like, if I was a college coach, I'm like, man, I need to get to that gym.
So, yeah, so obviously I was logged in a little early. And so I saw Josh, from Berry. I actually coached a kid who Josh coached. back when I was on the guy side. And so I'm familiar with Barry, and it's one of those things with the levels like you guys are talking about, as far as D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, NCCAA. There's levels for everybody. And there's levels for, Corey Black's one of my big guys who I like to kind of model myself out. And he's D3. That's what he likes to talk about.
Yes, sir.
D3. So, for me, as far as promoting our kids, that's something that we really try to push. And so for me, like personally, like I did not have that coach in my life who would promote and push. And so as a result, the decisions I made and I took first available, biggest division, most glamour, and I washed out. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't talented enough. I wasn't mature enough. I wasn't prepped. I wasn't groomed. And so my career ended, and it ended poorly. And so for me, that's kind of why I do what I do. So we talk about it with our kids as far as the different levels and where they can be. And then we do a lot of things. We'll break down film, and then once a week on our Twitter page, we'll post their highlights. And then I also have a newsletter that goes out. I've got close to 750 subscribers at all levels at college. And once a week, I'll send out a newsletter with, where's the program at? Where can you catch us at? Here's a link to this kid's highlight. Here's a link to this kid's information. Because for girls especially, there's just not a central localized source for quality information that coaches can delve into. And so that's something that I'm trying to be a part of, and at least for our girls at Grayson, really kind of promote them, not just our best players at the highest levels, but I mean through all the different levels that we can get them there. So that's a big part of what we do. That's a big part of what our program is. And that's just because that's a big part of who I was as a person and what I needed. So I'm trying to be that for somebody else.
And to be honest, that's why in my opinion, that's why we connected, because when I start seeing your vision, and as I just, when it caught my attention, I was like, okay, let me click some more. And I was like, God, I like his platform. And I was like, man, it's kind of like he's doing it a platform for Grayson. And I was like, it's almost sharing the same vision. Just for me, it was just trying to bring Division III, Division II, NAIA, JUCO D1, JUCO D2. And as you can see, now these Canadian colleges bring that type of platform to, and that's why I was like, man, I got to meet this guy. I was like, I love what he's doing. And, now you're giving those young ladies hope, because it's not, if I'm not D1, I'm not good enough. Like you said, now you're finding them homes. And that, to me, that's the biggest thing. And that's just the passion. And then I saw you shared the same thing. And I was like, man, find them a home. And for me, in our AAU program, one of our big sayings is no stone unturned. So if we're going to find you something. And listen, we're not up here saying you're going to Syracuse, Georgetown, Georgia Tech. If somebody's telling you that, they're lying to you. But I mean, hey, it might be in Wisconsin. It might be in Montana or Idaho. But if you're willing to go put in that work, it may be one of the best experiences you ever had. You never know. And on top of that, it's getting you, like you said, what C. Black would say, that D3,
Well, I think one thing you said right there that's really important too, that we stress and we push to our kids. So obviously this is the first year for me in the program. Mm-hmm. They were 13-13 the year before I've got there. They've never been past the Sweet 16. And that's with the same roster I had now, plus two kids that signed D1. They were 13-13. And so we're 20-5 right now. We're ranked number 3 in the state, and we start our state playoff run on Tuesday tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But I think the thing that you said that a lot of folks don't hear is if they're willing to put in the work. And so I think as much as we push our kids and we talk about those different levels, we also talk about, like, I guarantee you, when you listen to Josh Pittman, 15 minutes ago, they talk about their walkthrough and their weight training at 7 a.m. and their shoot around and then their practice and then their study hall. Like, the amount of work that it takes to be a college basketball player is extreme. And so when we're pushing and promoting our kids, we're also making sure that they understand that the volume of work. I mean, if you're getting, with Josh, he's giving them a $53,000 a year education. If they stay for 5 years, that's $250,000. You better put in $250,000 worth of work to earn that. And so for us, we really talk about that with our kids as far as the volume of work that's required. And then from there, that really drives the recruiting aspect, because we've got several seniors this year who won't play past their senior year. And that's okay. But those individuals that do want to play past that senior year, the volume of work it takes to be a D3 or just a D3, like get out of here. Like
that's nonsense. Yeah, that's nonsense.
That's one thing about what we're trying to do and what we do with our kids is we really want when they're ready to go to college, they're going to be prepared. They're going to know terminology. They're going to understand offensive and defensive concepts. They're going to understand, help side. They're going to understand how to play man defense. They're going to understand how to what a good shot, what a great shot is. They're going to understand how to break down film. They're going to be able to take hard coaching. Like every one of my kids has been coached hard, and take that for what it's worth. And so, when you get a Tim Slater coach kid, you're going to get a kid who's going to last in your program. That's not going to hit the portal as soon as something gets hard or as soon as you say something that hurts their feelings. And so I think that's something that as much as I push and promote, and you see that the shiny side of what I'm doing, it's really that nitty gritty on the other side where we're pushing and driving and being honest with our kids and what it takes and the work it takes and the hardships that you have to endure. That's big.
Absolutely, man. And any parent that does their research or any coach, like I said, it didn't take long for me to see. I was like, oh, I like what he's doing there. And don't get me wrong, like Coach Pierce does an excellent job on the boys' side. But I was like, man, Grayson got a great program on both sides. I was like, oh man, this is awesome because I actually was fortunate enough. I went out to Houston in November, and I got to see Grayson play out there on the boys' side. And since I do both sides, I was like, gosh. And it was just out of curiosity. I said, I don't know too much about Grayson's girls program. So naturally, I went on Twitter and started going through. And I started saying, oh, I like this. I like this. I like this. Who's the coach? So I'm just scrolling down more, and I come across Tim Slater. I was like, okay, reach out to this guy. I was like, I like it. And man, I want to ask you this question because it's an important question. And, sometimes it could be taken the wrong way. What you're doing, in my opinion, is what every high school coach should be doing. And unfortunately, you'll get guys like you and a couple other elite coaches on the high school side that'll do it. Others don't. And then they refer and say, oh, well, the AAU coaches got that taken care of. I disagree with that. And I think it's on both platforms to do the work for both. You know what I'm saying? And you agree with that, right?
Yeah. So, for us, we everything we do, I mean, like you can see here, I got the 5 on my chest. We have something that our program is built around. Our core concept is the rule of 5. And it's our 5 intangibles and our 5 tangibles. And I could spend an hour just talking about that, but we have goals every year that we have inside of our program. And so our first goal is that every student maintains academic eligibility. We didn't have a single student this year lose academic eligibility at Christmas. In fact, we had one come back from the previous year where she had lost academic eligibility, where she became eligible. Mm-hmm. That's our first goal, first and foremost. Our second goal is we have 0 days of ISS or OSS inside the program, because behaviorally, that's going to be the first thing I get asked when you get recruited is, I'm going to get, how are your grades? How's their character? Mm-hmm. And so we're a big proponent of that. The next thing we want to do is we want to win region. We want to win state. And then the 5th thing is we want to make sure that every kid who wants to put in the work, keyword there, willing to put in the work, gets the opportunity to play at the next level, whatever level that is. So for us, we have 3 out of 5 goals that are achievable every year with our academics, our ISS, OSS, and our kids getting that opportunity to play at the next level. And so that's a big part of what I'm trying to build and what I'm trying to do there at Grayson. I might not be able to win region every year. This year our best player got hurt and she didn't play down. Our leading scorer, one of our best players, got hurt and she didn't play down the stretch. We still went 5-1 in that stretch, but we lost by 3 in the region championship. And that's something we can't control. We can't control injury. We can't control the draw we have in state. We have a gauntlet right now. We have arguably the worst draw in the state for our state tournament run.
Who do you play?
So we'll play McEachern, who was a 1 seed in their region that got upset first round. Then we'll go to, if we're lucky enough to win that, fortunate enough to win that, the next round will most likely be number 1 ranked North Forsyth on the road at North Forsyth. So I mean, we've got an uphill battle for sure with some good coaches, and Coach Arthur and Coach Cudless over there if we're fortunate enough to get there. So again, you can't control some of those things sometimes, but the things you can control, as far as your grades, your behavior, the way your recruitability is huge. And it's a big part of what we push. And it's a big part of, what we do for our kids, making sure that their transcripts are right, making sure their grades are right, making sure that they've got the film that's necessary, making sure that they understand how to talk to a college coach when they call, understanding how to answer, what is a violation, what isn't a violation, how to keep yourself out of trouble there. Just those things that kids necessarily don't get. And again, it goes back to me, like a lot of high school coaches, unfortunately, just use kids to get wins, use kids to get themselves where they're trying to go.
Boy, you talking that talk there.
So, for me, it's not about that. For me, basketball changed my life. I'm the first person in my family to go to college. And the first person in my family to really have a career and not a job. And it's all related to that little orange ball. So for me, it's huge to be able to give that back. And that's a big part of what we do every year, is that recruiting piece, and that preparing them for the recruiting side of it, and putting them in front of the right kind of people, and having them on the newsletter, and having those highlights, and having those things that like you said, most high school coaches should be doing, but they're just not willing to put in that work. So, I mean, if I got a kid who's willing to put in work to be a college player, I damn sure better put in the work to make sure they're recruited as such.
Absolutely. And again, like we both agree, the level will speak for itself with the work that's put in. Your job is just to bring them to the table. Now, whatever level it is, I mean, we could all sit up here and be like, hey, she's a D1, she's a D2. But that level will speak for itself when you get to the table and you got 5 NAIs or 5 D2s. And even that is changing now, because some of the competition is getting so tight where there's NAIs just as good as D2s. There's D3s just as good as NAIs and D2s. So that table is bringing you a whole bunch of levels. And, unfortunately, kids are taking it as a slap in the face. Mm-hmm. It's not the case now.
Well, and you got to think too, especially for our 21s, 22s, and 23s, you're going to be battling another round of, a COVID year, mm-hmm. where recruiting is now even more difficult because there's an extra year of eligibility everybody's got. You couple that with the changes in the portal and how easy it is to transfer now. You don't have to sit out. When you get an opportunity to go somewhere for free, you get an opportunity to play and continue your career. That's a big deal, regardless of the classification. And so I think, again, that's something that we try to educate our girls on. We try to put let them understand, during the summer months, we'll go to a Division I, Division II, and Division III camp.
Team camp,
so
yes.
They can see the different facilities. They can see the different, the campuses. And, I'll never forget, we had a kid who we went to UGA's team camp. And Jenna Stady, big 6'8", was at West Forsyth. And she walked out, and they're like, well, coach, it looks like I'm not a Division I basketball player. Like, yeah, because it's Jenna Stady right there. Like, that's what a Division I 5 looks like. Mm-hmm. And so I'll never forget that moment when a kid was like, looks like I'm not coming here. And that's okay. It's okay to have that experience and to understand where you fit in and where you can be successful. Because ultimately that's what you want. You want to be able to get kids that are successful in the programs that they're going to. They're not going to wash out. They're not going to be detriments to the program. They're going to understand their roles. They're going to be able to take hard coaching. And that's a lot of what we're trying to do here at Grayson. And again, in year one, I couldn't ask for a better group of kids who just kind of glommed on and accepted. There's been some resistance for sure, but the core group has really accepted where we're trying to go. And the proof's in the pudding with 20 wins going into the playoffs and a top 3 in the state ranking.
And, man, I'll say this 100 times over. What you're doing, even from a team camp perspective, because as well as I know, a lot of these kids that have never been exposed to that, and they get to college and get the shock of their life, whether it's D2, like you said, she saw a D1 center. Well, like as well as I know, they may see a D2 center, a D3 center, and be like, oh, man, I didn't know. And like you said, it's our job to at least expose them to that. Our AAU organization, I remember we took our kids to Augusta University on the men's side, and they were like, man, these guys are good. And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to tell you this. It's not no slap in the face to come to places like this. And then, they start seeing NAI ball and D3. I took my son, like I was telling Coach Pittman, I didn't even meet him there, but I took him to the Emory Berry scrimmage. Those are 2 nationally ranked D3 programs. my son was like, man, they're pretty good. And I like the facility because Emory has a beautiful facility. And, it's getting those kids to see that so they can understand. And quite honestly, Emory and Barry probably have better facilities than some D1s.
Yeah.
And that's the misconception.
But I also think too, on the flip side, if you'll let me get on the soapbox a little bit, as we start promoting this for our athletes and talking to them about the different levels and understanding what the different levels are and understanding where they could fit in or can't fit in, and the fact that there are some D3s with phenomenal facilities, like Barry's got, the Cage is one of the most legendary places to play at, 27,000 acre, or you look at like LMU, they've got that beautiful, their facilities, Queens College Division II, beautiful facilities. Like, at the same time, on the flip side, these college coaches, and I'm gonna step on some toes now, they've got to stop doing, well, who else is offered? This kid's a D1 kid, or this kid hasn't gotten a D2 offer, or this kid's only gotten. That's got to stop as well, and they need to start really looking at, okay, how does this kid fit into what we're doing? How does this kid fit into the system that we run? How does this kid fit in academically to where we are? Because I've got way too many college coaches who will only recruit my players who have offers from similar schools, and that's completely anti what we're teaching our kids, but then they're still doing it. So I think it's got to go both ways. As far as
I'm gonna clip that. I'm gonna clip that, man. I mean, because that's as honest, as real as you can be right there. And whether that makes somebody upset, it just is what it is. It's like you said, it's a two-way street. You want the kid to be perfect in this way, but you also got to put in the work to trust your own eyes to say, well, this kid fits in our program. I don't care who else offered him.
Yeah, and I think that's the part, especially on the women's side, that we've really got to improve. We've got to improve the relationships from the high school coaches, really putting themselves out there to the college coaches, and then vice versa, where we really improve those relationships. We get more people in the gyms where they can put eyes on, and we're seeing these kids play each other and play, high quality competition in season, rather than let me just scroll through their Twitter feed and see, well, they've got an offer from a similar school, so I can offer them. And that's, we do a big event in December every year. I think we had 13 college coaches there in December. But I partner with another big promoter, Kyle Sandy, and we bring in all the teams, and it's all girls. And so we did 6 games this year. And out of the 12 teams that were there, 8 were ranked in the top 10 in the classification. And so for us, that's something that college coaches really have to start at the high school level, seeing the value at the high school level, and not just, well, I can just go to a giant AAU event and see 50 teams. I get that. Like, from a ease of use standpoint, absolutely. Yeah. But from let me really dig in and figure out about grades and behavior and ISS, OSS, all those things that we get in a school setting, college coaches really have to start digging in and connecting with coaches like myself and some of my contemporaries who are willing to do these things in order to make sure they're not missing out on kids just because they're Twitter feed scrolling to see if they've got an offer from a similar school. That's got to stop.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And, and unfortunately, they're missing out on some hidden gems like that, because there's some really good kids out here, unfortunately, that aren't being coached by the likes of you that are willing to put in that work. And let me say this as well. Georgia has some really good girls basketball. That's another thing. Like, let's take away what you do right now, but let's go to some of these girls are falling through the cracks, because there's some really good girls out here, and you can't get everybody. I'll give you just one small example. Baldwin High School down there in Milledgeville.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got some really good girls, but they're down there. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times coaches they're coming to Metro Atlanta. And, I brought Coach Kizzy on the platform. And, just off of that alone, there were coaches like, hey, man, tell me some more about this Baldwin. Bro, you need to get down there. They got some players.
Yeah, so we try to bring up some of I started my career in Statesboro, so I'm a South Georgia guy. I went to Georgia Southern, and so for me, we try to bring some of those schools up every year to put them in that situation. We'll reach out to, I know like Coach Jones in Elbert County does a great job with his kids. He's got some great players, but nobody could point to a map and show you where Elbert County is. And so we try to bring those types of teams in to those events so that colleges can see those kids play against Metro Atlanta before they get to the playoffs, and can see them play against, those 3 and 4A schools, can play against some of these bigger schools, 6 and 7A, and just really see a comparable comparison of those players to others. But I've said it, if I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. I'd put GHSA girls basketball up against any girls basketball in the country, including the New York parochial leagues, including some of the private school leagues in North Carolina, including some of the stuff out west that's happening in the private. Like, we've got really, really, really good girls basketball. But it really is, it's fantastically under recruited, just because it's those relationships, and it's that willingness for college coaches on the girls' side to dig in and really find these hidden gems, find these kids. I got a 6'1" athlete with a 6'4" wingspan who's got a 3.6 GPA, who was on the first team defensive team in the biggest classification, and I can't get her signed. Like that doesn't pass the eye test. And so no, that's not true. I'm going to get her signed. But the point is, my phone should be ringing a little bit more.
Absolutely.
For these types of
6'1".
So,
yeah.
So,
6'1" on a 20-5 program, they should at least be peaking to see, let me see more.
Right. So, those are the things where you've got these kids that really are falling through the cracks, like you said. But again, I think it boils down to promotion, things like this on this platform. And then it boils down to those relationships with those college coaches and those high school coaches. They've really got to kind of bridge that gap and get more communication and more ways to interact with one another, so that we don't wind up under recruiting our state, because there's no reason why Georgia and Georgia basketball at all levels shouldn't be just dominating. If you can get just the just the Metro kids, like, forget all those kids in South Georgia that are ridiculously athletic and hungry and determined and have drive. Those kids down at Baldwin, those kids down in the Savannah area that are just hungry. If you just get those kids to stay in state, there's no reason why all our programs, from the Kennesaw States and the Georgia States and UGAs and Statesboro and UG, like that, those are all places that should be really thriving with homegrown kids, because we've got great basketball.
Even the Peach Belt should be thriving. I mean, if you think about it. But I'll take it a step further, man. And I know we can sit up here and talk that talk, but I'm taking it a step further next year. And you're more than welcome next year, man. I'm taking this. I'm going to take the top 8 Georgia teams and put them up against another state. I'm not going to say the state yet, and it's going to be a classic in November. Your phone's going to be ringing on that one.
Well, we'll play anybody anywhere, and we're not afraid to do so, because that's, again, for me, that's part of our goals, is to make sure our kids are getting recruited. And so if I'm playing a bunch of bums and just getting blowouts so that I feel good about my 20-win season and my career win total, I'm not doing those kids a service. And so, we'll play. Hey, we'd love it. We're in. Just let me know.
Okay. Oh, definitely. Man, one last question for you, man. So basically, I know this is your first year and all of that. So basically, getting down to all of this, I know your goal is to get your kids in school. I know without even asking this, I know you're the type of guy that's going to have in September, you're going to have the coaches in your gym in September, because you're going to be inviting them in and, all the stuff that you need to be doing and the fall league stuff. What do you look at that you think we need to improve as a whole, as a state, or even the Coaches Association, to get Georgia to where you think we should be at?
Well, I think the GBCA, which I've been fortunate enough to be with, Coach Durden at Buford and Coach Dixon at Holy Innocents, they're really the driving force behind that. We're trying to get a live period event, and we're trying to get a live period event that mirrors what the boys have, as far as for high school teams. And unfortunately, the NCAA is dragging their feet on that, and making it extremely difficult. Which I don't want to say Title IX, because that could get blackballed, but I'm just saying Title 8 and Title 10. We might need to take a peek at that. But the point is, we got to have the.
There's no There's no live period for girls in June. So that idea, it's funny you mentioned that, because I automatically assume And I just recently found that I was like, wait a minute, there's no live period for girls for team camp. And they were like, no. And I know they got the live period in May for AAU, but I just assumed, well, they got the same thing the boys got. I can't wait to see it. And they were like, no, they don't.
So we're really pushing for that, and we're really pushing to get that there. I think we're going to be able to, it's not something that's going to happen overnight for us.
It's
but it is definitely something that. Yeah. But I think that's where some of these Division III, Division II schools that aren't hamstrung by some of these rules are going to be able to come in and proof of concept, as far as if we can create something like this and create an opportunity for a live period event. That's if we have that proof of concept. And again, I think I'm not one of those. Some high school coaches like anti-AAU. I'm not that guy. I think it's hand in glove. I think it's two things to get a kid recruited, and they're both necessary. But I think if I'm a college coach, I want to see them play AAU because I want to see how they are with 5 other superstars on the team. Yeah. But I also want to see them in high school when they're being held, where they've got to play a different role because maybe they don't have 5 superstars on the team. Maybe we've got to play something differently defensively or some other concept. So I think seeing a player in both of those realms is really huge. But yeah, that's got to be our next big evolution. We've got to have a live period event that really gets valued and has valuation from the college coaches.
Man, listen, I'm all on board. Whatever I can do to help, because you just hit the nail on the head. What you're saying is, for people that don't understand, that would, like, if you were to do it this year, the D1 coaches couldn't come. But that's not to say that it couldn't be live streamed to them. Now, number 2, like you said, now it's calling out the NAIA coaches. It's calling out the D3 coaches. And I just found out just the other day, because I just talked to the NCAA enforcement person, the D2 coaches, it's tricky on that, because a lot of times, as long as it's an evaluation period, they can come, and they just extended the evaluation period till to August 1st.
August 1st, correct.
Yeah, they just did that. So I was like, maybe that could work. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I was like, when I found out that there was no live period for girls, I was like, I know some of the girls' AAU teams play straight through June since there's no team camp. But I think that concept, man, whatever I can do to help on that, I'm 100% on board with that one, because I think that only opens the platform that you're speaking to for these girls to get noticed. And I'll be the first to say, the one on the boys' side was wildly successful, wildly. I walked in like, this looks like EYBL.
Yeah.
And I fully believe, because Georgia girls basketball, like you said, we would get the coaches to come. That's not even a question. It's just a matter of getting through the legalities for this to work.
And that's where we're at, and we're going to keep fighting for that. We're going to keep fighting to push for that. We've got people in positions right now in the GBCA that are really pushing for that. And so I think just by speaking about it and kind of putting it out there, it makes logical sense. We're not asking for something that's illogical or so difficult to replicate or so difficult to make happen. It's definitely something that's feasible. I think it's something that's necessary. I think it's something that's fair. But I also think it's something that could really change a lot of kids' lives. And really, that's why we're in this business. So absolutely. Why wouldn't we do it?
Definitely. And if you guys decide to do that with just NAIA and D3 coaches or what have you, I think that's still a win, because like you said, it's not to say that the D1 girls are not going to be noticed, but to get the ones you have that are 6'1" that don't have any offers, man, are you kidding me? And they get in that type of platform in front of 20, 30, or 40 D2 or NAIA coaches, it's going to change that young lady's life.
And again, that's what we're in the business for. That's why we as a high school, we try to play in, the best tournaments. That's why we try to put ourselves in those positions in summer to play on those different campuses. It's really just to put our kids out there so that they're getting recruited, they're getting those looks. And so, yeah, it makes logical sense. I'm a little hamstrung about what I can say right now, but tune in.
Definitely.
The wheel is, the wheel is spinning, so to speak. So,
listen, I'm all on board with that. Whatever I can do to promote, help, cover, I'm there. Because like I said, being there last year for the camp and being on SUV TV. I mean, sometimes I caught myself commentating the game, just like caught in the moment, because I was like, man, Georgia is one of the best places for basketball, hands down. And it showed that weekend. Like I tell people all the time, like even when I travel, I say, listen, the two best team camps in the country are Georgia and Texas, hands down. There was nothing else to talk about. I said Duncanville had a phenomenal team camp as well. Georgia's was right there. I said the difference was Georgia was getting even more quality teams from out of state. And I know on the girls' side, it'll be the same way. I know it will be. So listen, I can't wait. And, man, the job you're doing over there in the first year, man, I hope more coaches just at least, you know what? I'm not ashamed to say this. Steal a couple pages from your book and put in the work to do what you're doing, because that will only enhance girls basketball even more. And that's not to say, before anybody gets all up in their feelings, that there's not other coaches that are doing what Coach Slater is doing, because that's not true. There's a number of coaches that are doing this, but we just need more to continue building the platform and help build girls basketball to an even higher level and show the quality of players that are in Georgia.
Absolutely. And again, that's one of those things where I'm really easily accessible. I'm a sharer in the game. I'm one of those guys where if you call me up and you want to talk to me about, hey, how do you do this? Why do you do this? And not just my social media and promotion stuff, but I mean, like, I taught a class on the defense that I run. And I'm a sharer. I want to talk to you. I want to bounce ideas and grow the game. And so for me, I love feedback, both positive and negative. I think you learn from both. I love when college coaches call me up and say, hey, I like this, or I don't like this, or this was good on the newsletter, or this wasn't so good on the newsletter, or, this. So that kind of constructive criticism and that feedback that we get, I love it. So, if anybody would like to reach out or wants to talk or has questions, man, I'm happy to do so. I'm really, really accessible, and I enjoy it. This is my passion, is high school basketball and coaching basketball. So anything I can do to help grow the game, I'm super accessible and super willing to do that.
Hey, man, you got a fan here, man. Definitely you got a fan here, man. And I appreciate you for coming on the show, man. And, having you on the show just only gives me more hope when coming across guys like you and the work you put in, to expand the platform for girls basketball and just basketball in general, man. I appreciate you, man. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Again, hopefully we finish the drill here. We got 5 more games potentially. Okay. And hopefully we finish the drill and we have some more to talk about. But no matter when the ride ends this year, it doesn't really end, because that's the busy season for me. When our season ends, as I really start to push and promote and get our seniors signed and start getting our stuff set up for our underclassmen and start setting up visits and start setting up stuff for the summer. So hopefully I'm busy till March 13th. But if we're not, I'm definitely still going to be busy and working for my kids to make sure that they're getting what they need and making sure our Grayson girls get noticed and, people can hashtag recruit Grayson,
Definitely. Hey, man, and I like that idea of what you did, man. That was definitely a good one, too. Hey, man, you will definitely be a mainstay on this show, man, because, like I said, we need more coaches that are doing and putting in the work that you're putting in. And, man, I wish you the best, for states, whatever happens, Grayson is now a blue blood, not only on the boys' side, on the girls' side as well. And I say that not from a talent perspective, but from a quality ran organization, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, I'd love to come back whenever you want to chat. I
got your number now, man. It's over now. I got your number. So I know how to catch you now.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem, Coach. And, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. You have a good evening, okay?
Same to you.
All right. Coach Slater from Grayson High School. Hey, man, listen, if you guys as parents, and I'm not trying to cause any commotion, but as a parent, when you see a coach like that and he's running a great quality program, get on board and support that man 100%. And don't be calling him asking, oh, well, my baby's not doing this. It's evident this man knows what he's doing, and he absolutely has your child's best interest at heart. That's going to do it for tonight's show. Man, 3 great guests tonight. Learned a lot from Canadian basketball. I wanted to bring, Coach on from Barry University, Barry College, so people can learn more about D3 basketball. And now that you guys that don't know the quality of Georgia coaches, not only on the boys' side, but as you can see, we have some very quality girls coaches as well. So we're in good hands here in Georgia. So next week, we'll have another good show. I appreciate you guys coming on. You guys have a good evening. We'll be signing off. This is David Jones with Hoops Hitting Gems. You have a good night.